monstrosity. Boy, that flew. Well, sometimes when they're hit, they stay hit. Kieran Tierney.
Welcome to the After Extra Time, the World Football Podcast, now part of the Edge of the Crowd podcast network. I am Paul M. Banks, and this is the place to be for the big news, the big names, and the big games from the World Game. Let me introduce my co-host. He is the editor-in-chief of thepeacock.com, author of Sunny the Sloth children's book series, and a very concerned Liverpool fan this week, Stuart Cavanaugh. How are you doing, man?
Listen, Paul, Liverpool's right up there. I've got a few things going on. Life's pretty hectic at the moment, but that Liverpool performance in the first half, that was right up there, man. I am a little bit concerned that we might be a bit undercooked heading into the Premier League season. But let me just give you a little checklist of what's been happening in my life. My new kitten, Moxie, she's a little bit sick. She got a bit of an infection. We had some issues with some number twos just trailing around the house. And
oh, no.
All right. Nightmare. I managed to get her in the carry cage, which she hates, by the way. Took her down to the vet and got myself a nice deep scratch from her as I took her out the cage for the vet. And the vet diagnosed her with an infection. She's getting better now. Yeah, that was it's a little bit distressing. I've only had her for a few weeks, but I'm very attached. I was very concerned to hear that she was sick.
Kittens are like that. Kittens can be a handful, and they do get sick. And I would say to any cat owner, you always have to have some Bactine or some Neosporin and some Band-Aids at the ready at all times, because they will scratch you. And I mean, you know, for pretty much all of us, I think we'll all be fine unless you have like some ultra specific condition, but you got to disinfect it right away, because I have actually seen people where they just let it go, and it can get out of hand if you don't. So
some kind of, what do they call, antiseptic or something to just chuck on there straight away. But also, Paul, you wouldn't believe it, mate. Listeners may or may not know, I started working at a newspaper a few weeks ago. My first in-office big boy journalist job, outside of working for the sportsbank.net, obviously. And all the journalists have quit. It's just me and the editor in the editorial office at the moment. So I am covering everything at the moment, but it's fun.
It's got to be rough, huh?
Yeah, it's kind of fun. It's a good way to get to know people in town and, kind of get your bearings and stuff. But talk about being thrown in the deep end, mate. Pretty hectic. The last thing I want to touch on, Paul, is something that, as an American, I'm not even sure that you'd be aware that this is happening right now. But, it's just finished, the Commonwealth Games, and Australia won their 66th gold medal for this year's Commonwealth Games in the netball. It was fantastic to see. And that meant that we have now won 1,000 gold medals at the Commonwealth Games. Absolutely incredible.
Congratulations. Yeah, I've heard of the Commonwealth Games, but is it like only the former subjects of the British Empire in it, or what?
Essentially, you get some outliers from time to time, but, usually it's Australia, England, Canada, and New Zealand that dominate the Commonwealth Games. So
congratulations on the new gig at the newspaper. Congratulations on taking on all that responsibility. That's good, and congratulations to Australia international teams on getting their 1,000th gold. The only thing I really wanted to say in the intro is once again reference to my mother turning 80.
Oh yeah, how did it go? How was the birthday party, mate? Did she have a good time?
She had a great time. She gave a very moving speech when we sang to her, and my sisters did a great job in prepping for it, especially my sister Rachel, who hosted. The weather did not cooperate though, unfortunately. Really had to get a late start because of the storm that moved in. That kind of, we weren't able to go in the river, really go in the water much, which was unfortunate because I wanted to do my impersonation of the Australian Prime Minister, and hang out on an inner tube, drinking beer and water in the river.
I would have loved to have seen that tweet, mate. That would have been fantastic.
Hey, mate, what's the good word? It is time for the winners and losers segment. Yes, that is right. This is season 2, episode 2 of After Extra Time. So let's jump right in. Tell us, and lead with strength, put your best foot forward. Stewie, give us your big winner in the world of football this week.
Okay, I feel like we kind of shared the winner, and to be honest, we could have shared the loser this week looking at the run sheet, but I deliberately went for something different. So I'll just go with half of mine. I'm going to say, and obviously this is a massive homer pick, but Darwin Núñez came off the bench, completely changed the game for Liverpool, certainly lived up to the hype. He got a goal, he got an assist, and frankly is the only reason that we didn't lose against Fulham at Craven Cottage this weekend.
Yeah, I was kind of disappointed in that. I made a tweet. I was going to put like LOL Liverpool, and by the time I got around to it, they had gone from losing to being tied, and I'm like, well, now it's just LOL Liverpool. It's not LOL. So, what do you think of Jurgen Klopp in the way? Do you feel maybe he could have eased him in faster? Do you think he's easing him in too slow? How do you think he's handling that?
In my opinion, and I'll voice this opinion on Twitter many times when I interact with the toxic Liverpool online community, I think he's got enough credit in the bank that the way he does things works. He did it with Fabinho, and he's developed into one of the world's best defensive midfielders, although he had a stinker against Fulham. He did it with Andy Robertson. Now he's widely considered one of the best left backs in the world. I think Liverpool fans particularly just need to just trust the process, trust Klopp. He's done it before. He'll do it again. Having said all that, though, I would be very surprised if he doesn't start versus Crystal Palace this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, record signing in club history. I think he's got to eat up the minutes. I'm surprised he didn't go the full 90 right off the bat, but you're right. He knows what he's doing.
I think an interesting caveat as well, which may be a fault, but far be it from me to criticize the man. But I think there is just a little bit of attachment to Roberto Firmino. I think it's pretty obvious to most people that watch football that he's not the player he was 18, 24 months ago. Occasionally he'll put in a shift and he'll be like the Bobby of old, but at the moment, he's just not cutting the mustard, and I think there is just that little bit of attachment to that original front three. Maybe he's having a little bit of a hard time letting it go.
Yeah, I mean, wasn't that kind of happening last year too, where Bobby was in and out of the lineup?
Yeah, Jota. Yeah, he was replaced by Jota in the starting lineup. I think that's another thing that's being not considered is the fact that Diogo Jota, who's scored just a hatful of goals since he moved to Liverpool, he's not even training yet. He hasn't had a preseason. He's had a bum hamstring, and there's no return date in sight. And I think he's a massive miss at the moment because Firmino's a very unique number 9. The way he drops off and plays more like a 10 to play the right and left wingers in, whereas Diogo Jota, he's a goal scorer. I wouldn't say he's exactly the same as Núñez because he's not, but he does play that number 9 role in a more traditional sense, and much like Núñez does. And if Jota was leading the line, maybe there wouldn't be as much transition to moving to Núñez, if that makes sense. But Paul, I loved seeing your winner here, mate. Just written down in plain English. Let us have it, my man.
The Nordic Meat Shield. For those who don't get that reference, this comedian, I believe his name is Troy Hawks.
Incredibly hilarious.
I'm not quite familiar with him, but he is pretty funny. He's pretty weird. Yeah, Troy Hawk. And he he was greeting Manchester City players as they came into training camp, and he's standing outside there, and he had a goofy comment for everybody. And it's kind of funny to see the guys, like a lot of them just don't react. Some of them do, they kind of giggle or chuckle. And with Haaland, it's just stone cold. Yeah, so he calls him, he's like you are a Nordic meat shield.
We'll have to chuck the YouTube video in the episode notes.
If you guys haven't seen it, you should watch it. I believe he says Jack Grealish has a perfectly symmetrical face, which is pretty funny. He said somebody else has great teeth. And I like what he says to Pep. He's like, what's the more peppy, the pep talk or the guy who gives Pep the pep talk? But with Haaland, he's starting to I guess he's like a soccer version of Ivan Drago. Obviously not as filled out and as big, more svelte, but the same height. I believe Ivan Drago in Rocky IV, his nickname was Death from Above. And Haaland is just, for somebody to be 6'4" and have that quick first step and to be that explosive right off. It was, last week we talked about him a lot, so I won't expound too much, but, last week in this space, you were saying he had a great game against Liverpool, but everyone was trashing him. And I was like, well, yeah, because he had a sitter and he totally skied it. And, that went viral, and we live in that kind of world where that type of thing happens. But, Pep Guardiola addressed, he's like, oh, after the Community Shield, everyone's like, he's a bust. And it's like, nah, I don't think so. Bagged a brace, one from the spot, showed he doesn't need to have space behind him in order to score, which was one of the knocks on his game, was that he needed to have that. Basically, he just showed you that when City get a lead and other teams are going to have to, let's say a lot of teams, which would make sense, a lot of teams would want to sit back and kind of hold back against City. Once they're losing, they'll have to press forward, and that'll open things up. And, he'll just start scoring at will, because we saw that with the 2 goals he had in the winning over West Ham.
Incredible performance, incredible debut. Terrifying that he's leading the line at Manchester City now. He's still a young fella. He's got an incredible midfield to feed him. Looks like they've figured out, the new style they're going to have to play, and they're going to reap the benefits. I hope Liverpool can run them close in the league again. I think it's going to be even harder to beat them this year. But Erling Haaland could be the missing piece of the Champions League puzzle for Manchester City. I don't think I could put it any better than just terrifying. It is terrifying as an opposition fan to see that they've added that to what was already a scintillating team to watch. So it's going to be a tough season for us, Paul, as Manchester United and Liverpool fans respectively. I think it's going to be hard because I just don't see I don't see a reality where they don't just eat everyone up this season.
What's even worse about it, being a United fan, is basically it's like, one of those like dating game shows or something, and you get down to like the last 3 or the last 2 contestants, and you're the last one standing before you lose, because United had a Norwegian manager who just happened to be close friends with Haaland's dad, who laid all the groundwork, who had him at the training site. This was when he was with RB Salzburg. This is before he went to Borussia Dortmund. And they had him at the table, and they were set to close the deal, but United backed out because, they didn't like dealing with Mino Raiola, which is understandable, and they didn't like this sell-on clause that he put in about I believe it was something, I think it was the release clause.
Yep.
And basically it kind of came down to, if United would have had confidence that, hey, he's going to come here, he's going to do well, things are going to be great for everyone involved, then he won't want to exercise this release clause. But because of that, they backed out of the deal entirely.
It's tough, isn't it? It's a bitter pill to swallow. There's stories like that just littered throughout football history. One that springs to mind, shock horror, is a Liverpool one with Gerrard Houllier and Phil Thompson just being moments away from signing Cristiano Ronaldo, and they buckled, and then just a couple of weeks later he was signing for Manchester United, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Yeah, my favorite is the time when Tottenham lined up Willian and met him at the airport to close, and he didn't show up, and he just ghosted them and went to Chelsea.
Oh man, how savage!
Like, that's so mean and brutal, but it's kind of funny.
Yeah. These little anecdotes are kind of hilarious. In hindsight, at the time, imagine being a Tottenham fan, you'd be filthy because he was real good for Chelsea.
I guess what we're doing there is we're foreshadowing to the loser part of this segment a little bit.
We really
but I'll let you go first on that one.
Okay, so just full disclosure, I'm with you with what your loser is. Maybe not the minutia of it, but broadly, I think that your loser is correct. Having said that, I've gone with Leicester City. They failed to make any signings. Do you know, Paul, that Leicester City is the only club in the top 5 leagues in Europe that has not made one signing this transfer window?
Can't wait to see deadline day when every outlet does a transfer window grade. I mean, how do you not get an F?
Absolutely.
No. Thank you for. I didn't know that. Thank you for enlightening me.
Yeah. I was very shocked to hear that. Yeah. So they failed to make any signings. They threw away a 2-goal lead against Brentford side. We love Brentford. We love the Bees here at After Extra Time. But for an hour, they were pitiful against Leicester. Leicester should have been 4 or 5 goals up. Instead of securing an emphatic win, they threw away a 2-goal lead, and Brentford managed to secure a point with an epic comeback in the last 20-25 minutes. But not only that, their influential players' contracts are expiring. So Jamie Vardy, Kasper Schmeichel, and Yuri Tielemans, all their contracts are expiring. James Maddison is the subject of a £50 million bid from Newcastle. I don't know what the plan is here at Leicester, but we spoke a little bit last week about West Ham and their window shutting. I feel like this one is slamming shut for Leicester, for a side that was so close to backing up their shock title victory with a couple of Champions League spots. If it wasn't for, final day collapses, I could see them tumbling down the table this year.
Yeah, as of this recording, right on schedule. Yuri Tielemans is a top trending term on Twitter because it appears he's going to go to Arsenal. I did not know that. I had no idea. That's an interesting fact that they're the only club in all of the Big 5 leagues that has not signed anyone. And I would say that right now, you're going to have to start thinking about falling way down the table. And then if there's no plan, if there's no strategy at all, well, first of all, Brendan Rodgers will be a dead man walking, but that's kind of crazy because it's not really his fault, but it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to remember these guys were newly promoted in 2014.
Mm-hmm.
They can go back. They can go right back down too.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's not unheard of for Premier League winners to be relegated. I mean, it's not usual, but it does happen. And I kind of feel for Brendan Rodgers. He's clearly a talented manager, but he's fast becoming a nearly man. He nearly won the title with Liverpool. He nearly got Leicester back into the Champions League. And I feel like that's, even though I'm kind of giving him this tag, that's a rough tag for him to have. This is the one that we're all waiting for. Everyone, I foreshadowed it, but I think we foreshadowed it in the initial part of this segment. And even without the foreshadowing, I think everyone knows who the biggest loser of this weekend was.
Absolutely. That would be the transfer committee at Manchester United. Specifically, Richard Arnold, CEO, the man who took over for Ed Woodward. And, just as Ed Woodward was the thorn in the side of every United fan, the scourge, it was almost like he who shall not be named. John Murtaugh, I believe he's club director or he's football director. So you got John Murtaugh and Richard Arnold. Earlier this transfer window, they were photographed in Barcelona. So working on the Frankie de Jong deal, that has never happened. So it's just such a complete and utter shit show. And my theory is kind of this. I would say it was a two-pronged thing that screwed up the entire transfer window. Number one was their first target, their top target, the guy they've been talking about since May, Frankie de Jong at Barcelona. A couple different times there have been reports that Barcelona and United agreed on a transfer fee. Mm-hmm. So it's like, well, once you reach that point, well, that's the big sticking point. You agree on the amount, well, then the rest is just details. Mm-hmm. Oh, but no, he doesn't want to leave because he wants to stay at Barcelona and get his money. Mm-hmm. He's owed about 17 million euro to 19 million euro. 17 million euro, about $19 million in back pay. Barcelona wants to get rid of him because they don't want to pay it. He doesn't want to leave because he wants to get his money. Barcelona has had their own financial crisis and their shady bookkeeping or God knows what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And it's a total mess. So United, it was no secret Barcelona had financial problems. It was no secret that they were doing some weird things. Okay, so you should have prepared for that. Mm-hmm. Secondly, where is your backup plan for your? Now they're talking about these like scrap heap players and for central defense, because as we call it McFred, as United fans call it McFred, Scott McTominay and Fred. They're not good. They're not. They're like mid-table or lower table quality starting defensive midfielders. You have no holding midfield. It's your biggest weakness. Everyone knows that. Mm-hmm. And you spent all summer trying to solve that. But when you didn't, now what do you have? You have nothing to work with there. So that's one. The flip side is your leading scorer, the man who was definitely your best player last season, but also made you worse because he's just, I really don't care what anybody thinks about this. And whoever's listening, you have your opinion and whatever. Ronaldo's a diva. Ronaldo's self-absorbed. Ronaldo's hurting the team. Yes, he did all these great things for United back in the day. Yes, he's still arguably the best player they've ever had of the Premier League era. But that's ancient history now. That's before he went to Real Madrid. He spent years at Real Madrid. Then he went to Juventus. Then he came here. Now he's at a point where he's like last year, the team got worse because of his attitude and just the locker room chemistry or lack thereof. Now he's making the team worse because he's a major distraction, and you don't have a forward either because Martial was injured. Ronaldo had this bitter holdout, had this bullshit excuse. He had a family issue when he just held out because he wanted to be transferred to a club that's playing Champions League football. So he didn't have preseason. He couldn't play. So I think both of those things damaged everything enough that everything else that's going wrong with the transfer window is just aftershocks. They're just side effects of that. That's my take.
Yeah, it's shocking that Manchester United are so adamantly holding on to Cristiano Ronaldo. I think for the reasons that you explained very well, as soon as he started making noises about wanting to leave the club, just terminate his contract. It boggles the mind. The Frankie de Jong thing, I think you make a really pertinent point. Once you found out that he was never going to leave because Barcelona owe him all this money, why wouldn't you just drop it? Because that's a pretty penny. That's 19 million, right? And Barca, like you said, are obviously doing some shady business because they continue to buy players. Who knows how? once you knew that, why not just move on to the next target? Is it a case that they just didn't have a next target? Was it Frankie de Jong or Bus or what? It's strange. And, I'm not a Manchester United fan. We've established this over the years, Paul, but you feel for the supporters a little bit that, it's the end of the Ed Woodward era and, there's a little bit of promise, a little bit of hope there. And just to find out that the people that have taken over from him are just as bumbling and clueless as he was must just be shattering.
You talk about the toxic Liverpool community. And there's United fans. You could say that for any team. The word fan is short for fanatic. When you're fanatics, you're the rational people. But I don't know how I've seen posts that said if I was Eric Ten Hag, I would just rip up my contract and call it a day and walk out.
I think the coaching appointment was spot on. I know that you've just got to hang your hat on that eventually he'll get things right. But Jesus, it's just a mess at Manchester United at the moment.
Before we started recording, I saw on Twitter that there is a walkout plan for the United Liverpool game. Hashtag. I just sent you that because I just saw it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna do a post on that tonight, so look for that on the Sports Bank tomorrow or tomorrow morning, whatever.
Before we get into our Game Week 2 preview, Paul, I'm going to give you a little bit of a platform, something that you intimated you wanted to talk about in our intro this evening. You've got a bit of a bonus loser of the week, so lay it on us, mate.
Yeah, I'm really fuming. I'm super upset at this. How do you, every time there's been an American who does the whole growing the game BS at a press conference, or just the growing the game story or the growing the game question. Well, NBC did that, and NBC accomplished it because NBC Sports were the first network to broadcast a soccer league, a foreign soccer league, as they would, as any network would showcase a big American league. It wasn't just filler material stuck on some off hours. They put heart and effort into it. So then what did they do when they succeeded? Now they're throwing it all on their streaming services. And it's like, well, what do you have these stupid networks for then? Like, you've got NBC, regular over the air. You put games on that. For opening weekend, this is what they did. With the 10 games, they put all but 2 on the streaming service and none on Sunday. And the one game that was on Saturday was super boring and tedious, the Chelsea game, because Chelsea-Everton, because both teams just played way too conservative and dull. And then the other game was Arsenal, which was Friday at 2. And I know people work different hours and traditional, but people were working.
Mm-hmm.
So how are you helping? And you're making it that way. It's like, what? Like, why do I pay? Well, I actually cut the cord because I started to see that paying for cable is stupid.
Mm-hmm.
But then what am I getting with YouTube TV? Like, what am I getting with the package? And now, I don't know. I guess my anger is it is at NBC. It isn't this Peacock bullshit. Because then when you log into Peacock, that's not enough. You have to get Peacock Premium, which costs more. And then it won't be long until they'll put the other games on Peacock Premium, or the next tier, which is another, surcharge. I mean, they have a premium, then they have like the super premium, and it's just like, get the hell out of here, man. Get out of here with this bullshit. Come on.
Soccer streaming it's a similar situation over here. It's so fragmented. You don't know who's got what. I mean, I guess we're a little bit lucky in that Optus Sport has the Premier League, Stan Sport has the Champions League, but 10 Play, weirdly, the free-to-air network has the FA Cup. Paramount Plus has some other soccer. I guess it's not exactly the same situation. But to be a soccer fan in Australia, you're essentially paying cable prices and the combined streaming service prices to be able to watch everything that you want to watch. And it's a fucking nightmare.
Yeah, it is. It is a total fucking nightmare. That's the best way to put it. And I don't. Again, I'm mad at NBC and this Peacock bullshit, but what makes me angrier is just the general trend, the general way it's going. I mean, I know you're a Chicago Cubs fan, as am I, and I was so happy to see that their network that they own has lost a quarter of their audience already.
Mm-hmm.
Marquee Network, because not only did Marquee Network, their business partner, they're producing it with Sinclair Group, which Sinclair is just a vile, disgusting, far right-wing propaganda firm. Not that like, right-wing politics seep into the Cubs broadcast or anything, but it just shows you what they'll do anything for a buck. But it's so arrogant. Like their marketing slogan, we get all of it. It's so arrogant and off-putting. And when I got a move coming up, and when I was talking to Xfinity about cable and their different sports tier, and person on the other end, they don't know what's going on. They're like, oh, get this thing, it has all these channels, and I'm like, doesn't have Marquee, I can't watch the Cubs. Doesn't have Yes Network, I can't watch the New York Yankees. Like what are you doing? Like any of you people, like all of them. Where Larry Hawley, friend of the show, friend of the program, past guest on After Extra Time, he told me that the Chicago Fire are moving to Apple TV next year. MLS is moving to Apple TV. And he said they may be the end of professional sporting events in Chicago on regular over-the-air television will die when the Fire leave. It is game week 2 in the English Premier League, and we have some fascinating clashes to look forward to. Actually, a stronger and better schedule than what we had for opening day. Will the Nordic Meat Shield continue baking in the goals for his new club? Can Liverpool get their first win of the season? Can Eric Ten Hag get his first result and first point as United boss? Let's find out with our week 2 EPL preview, and we will start with our focus match, and that is Chelsea versus Tottenham Hotspur. Take it away, Stu.
Listen, mate, this is almost my favorite part of the pod, where I get to just nerd out and dive into the stats and find out what makes this game so interesting, other than the 2 headline clubs. For what it's worth, I think this will be a fascinating clash. Tottenham, as we spoke about last week, are our wild cards to be right up there this year. And Chelsea, despite us predicting them to have a bit of a slide, open the weekend with a victory. But let's focus on the match. Spurs have won just one of their last 37 away matches against Chelsea in all competitions. How wild is that?
So you're saying they're not really good at Stamford Bridge?
They just have a bit of a struggle there. But as we like to do, something sweet for the Chelsea fans, something sour for them here, or maybe something sour for the Spurs fans, now something sweet for them. This is the chance for Spurs to win their 100th Premier League London derby. They currently sit on 99, obviously. I don't know why I wrote that. But that's kind of wild. That's almost akin to Australia winning 1,000 gold medals at the Commonwealth Games.
I guess you wrote that because we all like nice round numbers, don't we?
Interestingly, Chelsea have lost 2 of their last 3 London derbies, conceding 8 goals in the process. Now, I couldn't fully deep dive on the League Cup delineation there, but I know it is 2 of their last 3 London derbies, and they've conceded 8 goals. That's kind of wild, don't you think?
Yeah, I think that's extremely wild. And, I don't really know how much people really care with the League Cup, but it was really interesting to see some of the stuff I read to preview the season about Tottenham winning the League Cup or, ending their trophy drought. I kind of like that. I feel that there's something going on here with Antonio Conte, and I think he is going to be really motivated for this one to get back at the club that sacked him a couple of years ago. So
Yeah.
I kind of like their and I do think he is going to finally end their trophy draft too.
Well, there's a couple of things to that. I agree. I think Spurs will win this one just to get the prediction out the way, mate. Also, I'll tell you what you should do, Paul. If you think Tottenham are going to break their trophy drought this year, you need to head over to friend of the show, insert name FC. Okay. Go on their Twitter and on their Instagram. Enter Hector's competition because I won a jersey last year through this competition. And this year, Hector is saying if Tottenham win a trophy, he's going to give a jersey away. So jump on there and
oh, nice.
Yeah, jump on there and get yourself a jersey. It can happen.
All right, I'll take him up on
that. My final fast fact here is Tottenham have won their last 4 Premier League games with an aggregate score of 13-1. The best current run in the Premier League. That kind of just leans into our prediction there, Paul.
But we got to go outside the box here with our predictions. We like to switch it up. We like to keep. Let's see what. Well, not as lopsided as I thought. I don't know what data Google uses, but the Google win probability has Chelsea 42% chance of winning, a draw at 28%, and a Tottenham win at 30%. So it's not as crazy lopsided as you might think.
Yeah, Google's got that all wrong. I'm not going to put a jersey on the line or anything, but take it to the bank. If I could use your catchphrase, Tottenham will win this one.
Yes, I have it trademarked, and I will let you it royalty free.
How very kind of you.
All right, moving on. This is what we're doing. We did our feature match first. And then we're going to go in chronological order of kickoff, which I'm doing just so Stewie has to wait as long as possible to preview Liverpool because they are last.
You got me.
Yeah, so I'm benevolent and nice, and then now I'm real difficult, and you just don't know what you're going to get. But anyway, the very first match of Premier League Week 2 is a matchup of England golden generation players who are now managers. This is a matchup of like guys who are name dropped in like England football songs with Stevie G and his Aston Villa hosting Frank Lampard's Everton. So who do you got in this one?
Listen, interesting fact. Since returning to the Premier League in 2019, Aston Villa are unbeaten in all 6 of their league games against Everton, winning 4 and drawing 2. Aston Villa were awful week 1. Everton were also awful on week 1. So this is
and awful to watch.
Yeah. So this isn't a match I'm particularly looking forward to seeing. The Steven Gerrard versus Frank Lampard of it all is an interesting subplot, Paul. I didn't pick up on that, but it's gonna be a shock to know. I'm picking Villa to win.
I think Everton struggle to stay above the drop line. I think they're going to be that bad. I'm not picking them at all. I'm going with Villa as well. So after that, speaking of struggling with the drop zone, here are 2 teams that will define their season by staying up. And that is Southampton hosting Leeds United. We got in this one.
Well, Southampton have won 4 of their last 5 home games against Leeds United, which is an interesting fact. I was impressed with Leeds on game week 1. A bit of fire from Jesse Marsh was interesting to see. I think.
Yeah, that was definitely, we didn't touch on that. That was definitely one of the big headliners of week 1.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think Leeds are going to be all right. I'm going to go with Leeds to buck the recent trend of Southampton winning their home games against them, and Leeds to pick up the W this weekend.
Yeah, I am kind of already feeling buyer's remorse about picking Leeds to be the bottom side this year because I like Jesse Marsh's fire. I like what he's doing. I think, like I said, I'm not a big fan of their roster and what they did this summer, but I am a big fan of his. So I'm going to go with Leeds as well. So next we move on to, I guess we could call this the Yuri Telemann Cup, because we don't know which side he'll be on by the time this comes. And that's Arsenal hosting Leicester City. If you're listening to this podcast straight through, I think you know what we're going to pick in this one.
Yeah, I'm going to keep this sharp, sweet, and to the point, mate. Arsenal 5-0 over Leicester.
5-0?
Big win.
All right, I'm going to say Arsenal 17-0.
I hope your prediction is right, Paul.
We know Southampton have shipped out 9 goals. I don't think I've ever seen. No, I mean, obviously, I don't believe that. I think Arsenal will win like 3-1 or 3-0 or something. That's my real pick. But have we seen double figures?
So, not in the Premier League. Not in the Premier League era. Back when Australia used to play in Oceania, I can't remember the exact scores, but give it a Google search if you're curious and listening, or if you're Paul talking to me right now. Australia chalked up some massive victories against some of the islands in Oceania, Solomon Islands specifically. I think they've got the world record for the biggest professional football win. So the biggest win. 31-0 over American Samoa in the 2002 World Cup qualification period.
Well, at least they're still American, so.
Australia's Archie Thompson scored 13 goals, also a record in the match.
We're going to move on to 2 teams that have had some ugly performances in recent years, but are looking stronger now. We've got giant killers in Brighton and Hove Albion. Well, I don't know if I want to say giant killers, but they have now run up a 6-1 aggregate on Manchester United in their last 2 meetings. And that was the joke, beating Manchester United anymore. And they're taking on the nation of Saudi Arabia, or the royal kingdom of Saudi Arabia, in Newcastle United.
So I think this could be a game of the week contender. I'm just going to go with the home side though, and pick a Brighton victory.
Yeah, I'm picking Brighton too, because I actually think they're a lot better than people. Graham Potter really knows what he's doing, and I think he could be quite possibly the next big star to move up. A big 6 job could come calling for him soon.
Absolutely, 100% agree.
And now, to use your words, a cricket score. Here's one that you circle on the fixture list as, like, you can pick this one to be 6-0 and 5-0, and you're just being real. You're not hyperbolizing. Manchester City, their home opener against AFC Bournemouth.
Yeah. Listen, you said everything that needs to be said. Manchester City will win this one. Potentiality for Erling Haaland to score his first Premier League hat-trick also.
First of many to come for sure.
100%.
So next we'll move on to, here's the team that I knew you wanted to talk about in depth. We weren't able to get to it, but here's your chance. Wolves hosting the other club in Southwest London, the one closer to the river in Fulham.
Listen, I did want to talk about Fulham a little bit. Time constraints meant that we didn't get to, so I'll just squeeze some stuff in here right now. I was impressed with Fulham against Liverpool last week. They struggled the last 2 times they were in the Premier League. Fulham fans, correct me if I'm mistaken, but the last 2 times they were in the Premier League, they were being managed by Scott Parker. This time around, they're being managed by Marco Silva. I think that'll make all the difference. They'll be more competitive this time around. And I think that, they're a good chance to get a point against Wolves.
I don't know. This one could go either way. I'm going to pick a draw. But fun fact about Fulham is that they used to have a statue of Michael Jackson outside their ground. And eventually, a few years ago, it got removed, given what we knew about them. And that was a good call on their part.
So, Brentford, Manchester United. Brentford haven't beaten Manchester United since 1936, 1937. So, World War II happened in the time since Brentford beat Manchester United. I'm going to go easy here. I think United will probably pick up a win. I'm not too hopeful for the Bees, and their first hour against Leicester didn't inspire any hope. Even Manchester United will be able to take advantage of them if they play like that this weekend.
Yeah, that was I distinctly remember last season United beat Brentford, and they beat them pretty handily, and it was off a week in which they looked atrocious the week before. So I don't remember what week or month it was, because that's kind of how their season went. And here we are, history is repeating. They looked atrocious. They'll respond. I believe Martial should be back. Christian Eriksen, this will be a big match for him. I look for him to make an impact. So I'm going to take a United as well. And then next we'll move on to another match in which you've got an individual player going against one of his former clubs, Jesse Lingard, with now Nottingham Forest hosting West Ham. I'm going to go outside the box here. I'm going to take Forest.
Yeah, just before I give my prediction, I got a couple of things to say. Jesse Lingard was arguably the most disappointing, but I'm saying this as a Liverpool fan, was the most disappointing part of last weekend. I expected him to light it up for Forest, and he had an absolute stinker against Newcastle United. I just wanted to say that. Interesting fact about these two clubs. This is the first meeting between Forest and West Ham in any competition since January 2014, which is crazy when you think that, West Ham have had a stint in the Championship. Since then, Nottingham Forest obviously dropped down to the third tier for that season or something. I'm not too sure. But even what makes this even more interesting is that Forest won that FA Cup tie 5-0 at the City Ground. Just given that, I'm with you, Paul. I think I'm going to go Nottingham Forest also.
Yeah, I thought we were going to clash on that. Let's see, January 2014. So back then, Donald Trump was still a game show host and C-list celebrity back then. He didn't start running for president until 2015. So, simpler, kinder time.
Yeah, incredible. I'm going to make a point to watch this one. It's on at a reasonable time over here in Oz, so I'll definitely check that one out.
And then finally, are you ready for some football? A Monday night party. Your guys, take it away.
Liverpool won 10 consecutive Premier League matches against Crystal Palace, scoring 30 goals in the process. The only team we've had a longer winning run with is Wolves, at 11 in a row. Having said that, I'm not ultra confident. We just look so off the pace. But it comes back to, just giving Klopp some credit. Usually we bounce back with a vengeance. The fact that we've got one of our bunny teams here could play into things. So I think that I'm tentatively going to go with a Liverpool win. Also, it's at Anfield. No, it's not tentative anymore. Liverpool to win on Monday Night Football.
Monday Night Football.
That's what I was waiting for. Liverpool Palace, give me a quick pick, mate.
Oh, I'm going to go Liverpool 3, Palace 1.
Before we take off, my man, do you have anything happening in your week ahead that you want to share with our listeners?
No, not really. I thought about this actually, going through the run sheet and looking at my schedule. I'm going to be going to some concerts later this month. I'm going to be covering 2 Chicago Fire games later this month. So I'll plug those when the time comes. This week is pretty dull. It's pretty dry, but I had an interesting fact here. It's a pop culture fact.
Okay.
Factoid. And it blew my mind. but to everyone else, I don't know. Did you watch the Jetsons as a kid?
I did watch the Jetsons. Yes.
Okay, so you remember the Jetsons was set exactly 100 years in the future from when it debuted. So that is the year 2062. All right, so George Jetson is 40 years old.
Wow.
And so that and what's interesting about what I did not know was that there is actually a specific birth date for George Jetson.
Incredible.
And his birthday is July 31st, 2022.
So George Jetson is 10 days old, somewhere out there in the world.
And he's a COVID baby. So he was conceived during a pandemic. And it just boggles my mind that we've now sort of lived long enough that we have lived to the time of the Jetsons.
We've moved into the Jetsons era. I wonder if Jane has been born yet. Daughter Judy is not even a sparkle in his eye.
Well, we know Astro's it's gonna be a while before Astro gets her because
Oh mate.
I think he was only a couple years old. He was just a puppy. But
I wonder
if go ahead.
I was just gonna say, is the robot's named Betty or Betsy or something? I wonder if she was developed by Google.
Yeah, and we're nowhere near having flying cars and cities in space. We're not going to get to that in 40 years. That's actually, the Jetsons were pretty ambitious. They seem to be pretty optimistic about humanity and mankind.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, here's another one that'll blow your mind. The first of many. Well, I know I've seen at least 3, maybe, but I think there's more. I think there's at least 6 Simpsons episodes set in the future. The first one was produced in 1995, and it was set in 2010. So we're already a dozen years past that.
Oh yeah, is that the one? Is that Lisa's husband?
Yeah, Hugh Grant. That one.
Yep. In memory of a real tree. That's got the.
And they predicted FaceTime.
Yeah, they did, didn't they? That's right.
Everyone's using FaceTime in that episode. So they called that. And then the one where Lisa becomes president, they called the Trump presidency. They predicted that one too.
Yeah.
Well, I can only pay you in popcorn shrimp for your gig tonight at my club.
Smell you later forever.
Who would have guessed that smell you later would have replaced goodbye as the greeting?
All right, well, that's the Pop Culture Corner with Paul there. That could become a regular segment, mate. Be careful. And that's it for another week of After Extra Time. As per usual, follow us at our Twitter account at @AFterET_podcast, or just follow us individually at Stewie is Sick of It or at Paul M. Banks. Please follow at Edge of the Crowd on all the good social media channels. You know the ones. Check out edgeofthecrowd.com, Australia's leading sports news and pop culture website. Be sure to get all your football news at thesportsbank.net. And while you're at it, add the brand new @thesportsbank official on Instagram. Finally, if you could show the third member of our pod some love by following at Otis Ginger Tabby on Instagram. Paul, we're still waiting for the Stellar account, mate. If you enjoy the pod, please click that subscribe button. And if you really dig it, please take the time to give us a 5-star rating. But until next week, he's Paul M. Banks. I'm Stuart Kavanagh. This has been After Extra Time. Smell you later.